letting go of old assumptions, making room for clarity.
This episode includes lived experiences, personal observations, and community conversations. No names are used, no situations are exaggerated. Everything shared is for awareness, reflection, and understanding. You are invited to share your own experiences, opinions, or facts. You can message me on any platform and you can send a voice message. Your voice may be played on the show. You can also join the community through the QR code on my YouTube page, which connects directly to the WhatsApp group. Welcome to Life, Love, and the rest of it. I'm your host, Iris, and tonight we're going to take our time. Settle in, take a breath, let your mind open, let your heart soften, and let your spirit stay grounded. Because what we're talking about tonight is not just policy or numbers or headlines. It's people. It's community. It's survival. It's the truth behind what we see every day and what we've been taught not to question. Let's start with the big picture. Not just what's happening now. Not just what happened after COVID. But the full 50-year arc of how housing changed in America. Because nothing we're seeing today, the vacant houses, the impossible rent, the homelessness, the land clearing, the new communities rising up while others fall apart. None of it happened overnight. This is 50 years in the making. And when you understand the timeline, you understand the truth. When we look at the last 50 years of housing in this country, you can see exactly how we got here. Step by step, decade by decade. Back in the 1970s, housing was still within reach. The average home cost around $26,000. Rent was about $108 a month. Minimum wage could actually cover it. And most families lived on one income without drowning. Public housing was expanding. Section 8 was brand new and accessible. And homelessness wasn't a national crisis. But in the 1980s, everything started to shift. Housing prices doubled. Rent began rising faster than wages. Public housing funding was cut. Mental health institutions closed without community replacements. And homelessness became visible for the first time. By the 1990s, we saw the rise of the working homeless. People who were employed full-time, but still couldn't afford a place to live. While vacant homes increased because repairs cost more than the houses were worth. Then the 2000s brought the housing boom in the crash. Banks approving loans people couldn't afford. Developers building fast and cheap. And when the market collapsed in 2008, Black families lost generational wealth at historic levels while investors bought foreclosed homes in bulk. The 2010s became the era of rent burden, where rent increased faster than at any point in U.S. history. Wages stayed almost frozen. Section 8 wait lists stretched for years, and developers focused on luxury units instead of affordable ones. And then COVID hit in 2020. And it didn't create the housing crisis, it exposed it. Rent jumped more than 30% in 3 years. Construction costs skyrocketed. Evictions surged once protections ended. Homelessness increased nationwide and affordable housing availability hit a historic low. Land clearing accelerated, especially in southern states, and new communities began rising up while older neighborhoods still struggle. Today in 2025 and 2026, we're living in the aftermath of all those decisions. Rent is the highest it has ever been. Wages still haven't caught up. Vacant houses sit untouched because repairs cost more than the home itself. Support systems pick and choose who they help, and single individuals, especially those without family support, are struggling the most. People aren't giving up because they're weak. They're giving up because the system has become too heavy for one person to carry alone. And when you understand this 50-year timeline, you realize the crisis we're living in today is not an accident. It's the result of choices made over generations. Choices that turn housing from a basic foundation into a daily fight for survival. Now that we've walked through 50 years of housing history, let's talk about something we've all seen with our own eyes. Something that never made sense growing up and still doesn't make sense today. All these vacant houses sitting empty while people sleep outside, live in shelters, or bounce from place to place trying to survive. And the truth is, when we were kids, nobody explained it. We just saw boarded up windows, collapsing porches, grass growing up to your knees, and houses that look like they've been abandoned for decades. Adults would tell us, don't go near that house. Or, some people just want to be homeless. Or, nobody wants to live there. But when you get older, when you start paying attention, when you start asking real questions, you realize something deeper. People don't choose the streets. Most people don't choose the streets. People choose survival. The system chooses everything else. A vacant house is never just an empty building. It's a story, a long one with layers most people never hear. Some houses sit empty because the owner passed away and the family never settled the estate. Some are stuck in probate for years. Some have heirs who can't be found. Some were abandoned because the repairs cost more than the house is worth. Some were foreclosed on never resold. Some are tied up in legal issues that take a decade to untangle. People see the house, but they don't see the paperwork. They don't see the court dates, the liens, the back taxes, the title issues, the family disputes, or the cost of bringing an old house up to code. In cities, they know these houses exist. They track them. They find them. They board them up. But here's the part most people don't know. Cities can't just take a house. Not legally. Not without due process. Not without years or steps. So the house sits and sits and sits, and the neighborhood lives with the consequences. And while those houses sit empty, people are out here struggling. People are sleeping in cars, in shelters, in motels, in tents, or on someone's couch praying they don't get put out. People are working full time and still can't afford a place to live. People are applying for housing and getting denied because they don't make 3 times the rent. People are waiting years for Section 8. People are trying to save money but can't because everything costs more. And the hardest part, there are enough empty houses in this country to shelter every homeless person several times over. But the system isn't built to move people into those homes. It's built to protect property, not people. And this is where the emotional truth comes in, because when you're homeless, or when you've been homeless, or when you're one step away from it, you see things differently. You see how the system picks and chooses who it helps. You see how some communities get resources, support, and investment, while others get ignored. You see how people with connections get access and people without support get left behind. You see how the rules change depending on who's asking. And you see how easy it is for someone to fall through the cracks. Not because they're lazy. Not because they don't care. but because the system is heavy and they're carrying it alone. And I want to say this clearly. People who don't have my clarity, people who don't have my ability to keep going even when everything around me is unstable. There are people who are breaking under the weight of the system. People who have been fighting for so long, they're tired. People who have given up because it's simply too hard to do everything without the help you need. And when support systems pick and choose who they help, when they uplift one community while ignoring another, that's when people fall through the cracks. That's when people lose hope. That's when people stop believing anything will change. So when we talk about vacant houses, we're not just talking about buildings. We're talking about a system that leaves people behind. We're talking about a country where housing exists, plenty of it, but access doesn't. We're talking about neighborhoods that could be thriving, but instead are filled with empty homes and struggling families. And we're talking about the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Homelessness is not a personal failure. It's a policy failure. It's a structural failure. It's a community failure. And it's a reflection of what we choose to value, property or people. And that's why this conversation matters, because once you understand why these houses sit empty, you understand why so many people are hurting. You understand why people are exhausted. And so am I. You understand why people feel invisible. And you understand why we need to do better, not just for ourselves, but for the people who don't have the strength to keep fighting. Now let's talk about something that has been happening right in front of us, something you can see with your own eyes if you drive through almost any southern city: the land clearing. After COVID, wooded areas that had been untouched for decades suddenly started disappearing. Trees cut down, land flattened, heavy machinery moving like clockwork. And at first it looked random, like construction for a new store or maybe a warehouse or maybe just development. But then the pattern became clear. These weren't just buildings. These were entire communities being built from the ground up. And many of those new communities were filled with Spanish-speaking families who were buying land, building homes, pooling resources, and creating neighborhoods with a level of unity and strategy that you can't help but notice. And let me be clear, this is not about blaming anybody. This is not about division. This is not about pointing fingers. This is about observation. This is about equity. This is about access. Because while these new communities were rising up, many long-standing families, especially Black families, single adults, and low-income workers, were still struggling to access housing, loans, land, and opportunity. And that raises real questions. How are some groups able to build entire neighborhoods from scratch, while others can't even get approved for a one-bedroom apartment? Who is approving the land? Who is financing the development? Who is benefiting from the cleared spaces? And why aren't the same opportunities available across the board? What we're seeing is not accidental, it's structural. It's systemic. It's the result of decades of policies, lending practices, zoning decisions, and economic shifts that have quietly shaped who gets access to land and who doesn't. And when you look closely, you start to see the pattern. Communities with strong collective support system, shared resources, and unified financial strategies are able to move faster, build faster, and secure land faster. Meanwhile, Individuals, especially single adults without family support, are left trying to navigate a system that was never designed for one person to carry alone. And here's the part that hits home. While new communities are being built, older communities and neighborhoods are being left behind. Vacant houses sit untouched. Repairs go undone. Support is inconsistent. And the people who have lived in these neighborhoods for generations are watching the land around them change. Not for them, but around them. They're watching new families move in with opportunities they were never offered. They're watching resources flow into areas they were told were too expensive or not worth the investment. And they're watching the system pick and choose who gets help, who gets access, and who gets left behind. And this is where the emotional truth comes in. Because when you're living through this, when you're seeing the land clear, the houses rise, the communities form, you start to feel the weight of it. You start to feel the separation. You start to feel the inequity. And you start to understand why so many people are tired, why so many people feel invisible, why so many people feel like they're fighting a battle they can't win. There are people who don't have the strength, the clarity, the resilience, or the support to keep pushing through a system that keeps telling them, not you. When we talk about land clearing and new communities, we're not just talking about construction. We're talking about access. We're talking about opportunity. We're talking about who gets to build stability and who gets denied stability. We're talking about the quiet ways the system shapes neighborhoods, families, and futures. And we're talking about the people who are being left behind in the process, not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because the system was never designed with them in mind. And that's why this conversation matters, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the access gap, you understand the struggle. And once you understand the struggle, you understand why people need help, real help, consistent help, equitable help, not just for themselves, but for the generations coming behind them. When we talk about housing, homelessness, and access, it's easy for people to focus on the numbers, the rent increases, the vacancy rates, the cost of living, the wait list, the income requirements. But behind every number is a person, a human being, and behind every person is a story. And the truth is, people don't just end up homeless. People don't just fail to qualify. People don't just fall behind. What really happens is that life hits them in ways the system was never designed to catch. Some people lose a job and never recover. Some get sick and fall behind on bills. Some escape domestic violence with nothing but the clothes on their back. Some age out of foster care with no family to turn to. Some lose a parent, a partner, or the one person who helped them stay afloat. And some people, especially single adults, simply cannot carry the weight of survival alone. Not because they're weak, but because the system is heavy. And here's the part most people don't understand. People don't give up because they want to. They give up because they're tired. They give up because they've been fighting for years with no break, no support, no safety net, and no one to lean on. They give up because every door they knock on is locked. They give up because every application comes with a fee they can't afford. They give up because every program has a wait list that stretches into years. They give up because they're told they don't make enough money to qualify for housing, but also don't make enough money to qualify for help. They give up because they're trying to survive in a system that was never built with them in mind. And the hardest part, people judge them for it. People say, why don't they just get a job? Not knowing they already have one. People say, why don't they save money? Not knowing they're choosing between food and gas. People say, why don't they apply for assistance? Not knowing they've been denied 3 times. People say, why don't they try harder? Not knowing they've been trying for years. And people say, well, I made it, without realizing they had support, or family, or a partner, or a safety net that someone else never had. The truth is, strength is not the same as support, and survival is not the same as stability. This is where I want my voice to matter. I'll be okay, but there's people out here who aren't as strong as I am, and that's the truth. People who don't have my clarity, people who don't have my ability to keep going even when everything around me is unstable. There are people who break under the weight of things I've learned to carry. And that doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. Not everyone has the emotional stamina to fight a system that keeps telling them, not you. Not everyone has the mental strength to keep applying, keep calling, keep asking, keep hoping. Not everyone has the spiritual endurance to keep believing things will get better when nothing around them is changing. And when support systems pick and choose who they help, when they uplift one community while ignoring another, that's when people fall through the cracks. That's when people lose hope. That's when people stop believing anything will change. And that's when people start to disappear, not physically, not emotionally. They stop asking for help. They stop trying to explain their situation. They stop believing they matter. And that is the real cost of this crisis. Not just the homelessness, not just the instability, but the quiet, invisible loss of people who once believed in themselves and now don't. And this is why I want this episode to matter. Because I'm not just talking about housing. I'm talking about humanity. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about the people who are hurting in silence. I'm talking about the people who don't have the strength to speak up. I'm talking about the people who need someone, anyone, to say, I see you, I hear you, you matter. And I'm talking about the truth that most people don't want to face. Some people never had a chance, not because they didn't try, but because the system was never designed for them to win. And that's why we have to care. That's why we have to pay attention. That's why we have to help where we can. Because the human cost of this crisis is not just the people sleeping outside. It's the people who are losing themselves in the process. And if we don't talk about it, if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't see it, then we're part of the problem. When we talk about support, we have to be honest. A lot of what people call support today is not support at all. It's advice, it's judgment, it's distance. It's people telling you what they think you should do without ever asking what you need. Real support looks nothing like that. Real support is not loud. It's not performative. It's not selective. Real support is consistent, human, and rooted in compassion. Real support shows up before the crisis, during the crisis, and after the crisis. It doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable. It doesn't pick and choose who deserves help. It doesn't wait until someone is broken to step in. Real support says, I see you, long before someone has to say, I'm struggling. Real support looks like people checking on each other without being asked. It looks like someone saying, do you need a ride? Instead of, Why don't you have a car? It looks like someone offering a meal without making you feel ashamed for needing it. It looks like someone helping you fill out paperwork, navigate a system, or understand a process that feels overwhelming. It looks like someone sitting with you while you make phone calls you've been avoiding because you're tired of being denied. It looks like someone saying, you don't have to do this alone, and meaning it. Real support is not about fixing someone's life. It's about lightening the load so they can breathe long enough to keep going. And real support is practical. It's not just emotional encouragement, it's action. It's someone helping you find resources, not just telling you to look it up. It's someone offering to watch your kids while you go to an appointment. It's someone giving you a ride to work when your car breaks down. It's someone helping you move, helping you clean, helping you organize, helping you apply for housing, helping you understand your rights. It's someone saying, let me walk with you through this, instead of standing on the sidelines giving commentary. Real support is hands-on, not hands-off. But real support is also equitable. It doesn't uplift one community while ignoring another. It doesn't pour resources into one group while starving another. It doesn't decide who is worthy based on language, background, family size, or who someone knows. Real support recognizes that everyone deserves stability, safety, and dignity, not just the people who fit a certain mold. Real support understands that single adults need help too. People without children need help too. People without family need help too. People who are homeless need help too. People who are trying, really trying, but still struggling need help too. Real support doesn't ask, why are you in this situation? Real support asks, how can I help you move forward? And here's the truth. Real support doesn't always come from systems. Sometimes it comes from community. Sometimes it comes from strangers. Sometimes it comes from people who know what it feels like to struggle. Sometimes it comes from people who have been through the fire and refuse to let someone else burn. Real support is often built from the ground up, not handed down from the top. It's neighbors helping neighbors. It's people sharing resources. It's communities creating their own safety nets when the official ones fail. It's people saying, we're all we've got, so let's take care of each other. And I want to say this clearly. Real support is not charity. It's not pity. It's not helping the less fortunate. Real support is solidarity. It's connection. It's humanity. It's recognizing that life can change for anyone at any moment. And the only difference between stability and struggle is often one unexpected event. Real support understands that people don't need to be fixed. They need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to be supported in ways that honor their dignity, not strip it away. And that's why this conversation matters, because when we talk about real support, we're talking about the kind of help that keeps people alive, the kind of help that keeps people from giving up, the kind of help that reminds people they matter, the kind of help that fills the gaps the system refuses to fill, and the kind of help that builds stronger communities, not just for today, but for the generations coming behind us. Now that we've talked about the history, the vacant houses, the land clearing, the inequity, and the human cost, I want to bring this conversation home, because awareness is powerful, But awareness without action doesn't change anything. And the truth is, most people think they can't make a difference because they don't have money, or they don't have connections, or they don't run an organization. But real change doesn't start with big systems. It starts with small actions. It starts with people. It starts with community. It starts with the everyday choice we make to see each other, support each other, and show up for each other in ways that actually matter. And the first thing listeners can do is simple. Pay attention. Pay attention to the people around you. Pay attention to the neighbor who suddenly disappears. Pay attention to the coworker who's been quieter than usual. Pay attention to the person who always looked tired or stressed or overwhelmed. Sometimes the first step to helping someone is simply noticing that they're struggling. The second thing listeners can do is ask real questions, not the surface level, polite questions we ask out of habit, but the questions that show genuine care. Questions like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Is there something I can do to help you? Is there something I can help you with? And when someone answers, listen without judgment. Listen without trying to fix them. Listen without comparing their situation to yours. Sometimes people don't need solutions. They need someone to hear them without making them feel small. And sometimes that alone gives them enough strength to keep going. The third thing listeners can do is share resources. Not everyone knows where to go for help. Not everyone knows what programs exist. Not everyone knows how to navigate the system. If you know about a food pantry, share it. If you know about a housing program, share it. If you know about a community group, share it. If you know about a job opening, share it. Information is a form of support, and for someone who's struggling, the right information at the right time can change everything. The fourth thing listeners can do is offer practical help, the kind that makes someone's day a little lighter. Offer a ride, offer a meal, offer to help with paperwork, offer to watch someone's kids for an hour, offer to sit with them while they make phone calls, offer to help clean or organize, offer to go with them to an appointment. These small acts of support may seem simple, but for someone who's overwhelmed, they can be life-changing, and you never know how much weight you're lifting off someone's shoulders just by showing up. The fifth thing listeners can do is challenge the narrative. When you hear someone say, people just want to be homeless, correct them. When you hear someone say, they should try harder, challenge that. When you hear someone say, it's not my problem, remind them that community is everyone's responsibility. Changing the way people talk about homelessness and housing is part of changing the way people think about it. And when people think differently, they act differently. And finally, listeners can build community, real community, not the kind where everyone stays in their own bubble, but the kind where people look out for each other, the kind where people share resources, share information, share support, and share humanity, the kind where people don't wait for systems to save them. They save each other. Because the truth is, systems fail, programs fail, policies fail, but community, when it's real, doesn't fail. Community catches people when the system drops them. Community fills the gaps. Community keeps people alive. And that is the reason why I want this episode to matter. Because I'm not just asking people to listen. I'm asking them to act. I'm asking them to care. I'm asking them to see the people around them with new eyes. I'm asking them to understand that small actions add up. And I'm asking them to be part of the solution, not just part of the conversation. Because at the end of the day, real change doesn't start with governments or agencies. It starts with us. It starts with how we treat each other. It starts with how we show up. It starts with how we love our community in real, tangible ways. As we close out this episode, I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with something real, something you can carry with you long after this conversation ends. Because everything we talked about tonight, from the 50-year timeline to the vacant houses, the land clearing, the inequity, the human cost, and the meaning of real support, none of it is just information. It's a mirror. It's a reminder of what's happening around us every single day. It's a reminder that people are hurting quietly, surviving loudly, and doing the best they can with what they have. And it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in making our community stronger, safer, and more compassionate. Housing is not just about building. It's about people. It's about dignity. It's about stability. It's about the right to exist without fear. And when we understand that, we start to see each other differently. We start to treat each other differently. We start to care differently. And that's where change begins. Not with policies, not with programs, not with paperwork, but with people deciding to show up for each other in real human ways. If tonight's episode made you think, if it made you reflect, if it made you see something in your own community that you've overlooked, I want you to hear from me. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your experience matters. You can message me on any platform and you can send a voice message. And yes, your voice may be played on the show, because this isn't just my conversation. This is our conversation. This is our community, and your perspective adds something valuable to it. Before I go, I want to leave you with this. Community is not built by systems. It's built by people who refuse to let each other fall. And that's what I want for all of us. A community that sees, a community that cares, a community that supports, a community that shows up, a community that understands that we rise higher when we rise together. Thank you for listening. Thank you for thinking. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of this space. Until next time, stay aware, stay compassionate, and stay intentional for the good. Before we end tonight's episode, I want to take a moment to say thank you, truly. Thank you for listening with an open mind. Thank you for caring about people who you may never meet. Thank you for sitting with the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Thank you for being part of a community that chooses awareness over avoidance, compassion over judgment, and action over silence. Every time you show up here, you're choosing to be part of something bigger, something human, something intentional for the good, something rooted in the belief that we can do better for each other, and that matters more than you know. Now, as we close, I want to leave you with a poem, something gentle, something honest, something that speaks to the heart of everything we talked about. For the ones still trying, there are people you pass every day carrying stories you'll never hear, fighting battles you'll never see, holding on with hands that are tired but still reaching for tomorrow. There are hearts that bend under pressure but refuse to break, souls that walk through storms with no umbrella, no shelter, no one to call, just faith and forward motion. There are people who smile even when life is heavy, who show up even when they're hurting, who keep going even when the world tells them to stop. And if that's you, I see you. And if that's someone you love, hold them close. If that's someone you've overlooked, look again. Because strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it trembles. Sometimes it simply survives. And every person who is still trying deserves a place to rest, a hand to hold, a community to belong to, in a world that remembers they matter. We rise when we remember each other. We heal when we choose compassion. And we rebuild when we refuse to let anyone fall alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough to stay until the end. If tonight's episode touched you, challenged you, or opened your eyes in any way, I invite you to share your thoughts, your story, or your voice message. Your voice may be featured in some episodes. And if you want to stay connected, join the WhatsApp community through the QR code on my YouTube page. That's where the real conversations continue. Until next time, stay aware, stay compassionate, and stay intentional. This is Iris.
I've been peeling back the layers of the woman I used to be, letting go of old assumptions, making room for clarity. People talk like they were present for the chapters I outgrew.